Good afternoon, New Orleans, or wherever you may be. It's Wednesday at 4, so that makes us the Baldy and the Blonde Show. I'm Tom Coates in studio with the inimitable and immutable blonde Michelle Godin.
You can't mute me, that's for sure.
No, or imitate you.
No
Can't.
imitations accepted.
One of a kind.
That's me.
All right,
And
so
you are too. So there you go.
I have bad news.
What is it?
For all those listeners who love to hear me go on and on and on and on about all this stuff I go on and on and on about. Today they won't get to.
No, today's a snappy show.
Yeah, you want to explain
Yes, I
what
do.
we're doing today?
Yes, what we're doing today is 9/11. The show was originally planned for September 10th, and right before we went on the air, Charlie Kirk was murdered, so we switched. And so today we're going to play the show we previously prepared. We haven't actually, it's not taped. We're just going to play the clips, and mostly what you're going to listen to today is eyewitness accounts.
So we could actually do many shows on 9/11 and not cover everything.
Absolutely. But on today's show, we're going to focus on eyewitness accounts. We're going to play and discuss portions of interviews with eyewitnesses at the World Trade Center, the Pentagon, and the field in Shanksville, Pennsylvania. Now, a few of the interviews are with regular average Joes and Janes who happen to be in the area, but most of them are people like firefighters and reporters, employees of the Pentagon or the World Trade Center. In other words, credible people.
Right, and people who are right there, like right on the spot.
Right there.
And now, when you listen to these clips, listen carefully for some common themes. Listen for lack of evidence of a plane hitting the Pentagon, as crazy as this sounds. But these are just hear them out. These are people who are on the scene. Lack of evidence of a plane crashing at Shanksville. You'll hear accounts by close-up eyewitnesses of the Pentagon and Shanksville say that whatever it was that hit was much smaller and quieter than a commercial airliner. You'll hear many of accounts of a large explosion in the basement of the North Tower seconds before the first plane hit, right?
That's important.
Followed a short time later by 2 or 3 more large explosions right before the collapse. You'll hear accounts from New York firefighters about molten steel underground flowing like lava from a volcano. Underground.
It's crazy. It's crazy. You're also going to hear about World Trade Center Building 7, which some people have never even heard of, which is a third building which collapsed at 5:20 p.m. into its own footprint at free fall speed, despite not being hit by a plane. And several witnesses report bombs going off in the building in the morning, then a countdown and more explosions right before the collapse.
We're also going to play some clips of some surprising statements made by John Kerry, by George Stephanopoulos when he was live on ABC on 9/11, and statements by Rudy Giuliani while he was mayor of New York. And all three of their statements call the official narrative into question.
Yes, indeed. Again, our focus today is on eyewitness accounts. We're not going to discuss alternative theories about who was up to no good, who did it. We don't pretend to know more than people who were there up close, and neither should anyone else. Everybody should listen to these witnesses with an open mind.
And one last word. In the years since 9/11, we've all seen up close how corrupt and untrustworthy we see it in real time.
All the time.
How corrupt and untrustworthy the media and the government are. They lie and spin nonstop. So it really should come as no surprise that the official narrative of 9/11, just like the official narrative of everything, just does not match what our own eyes and ears tell us.
That's it. And with
so
that,
just listen with an open mind. Again, these are people who are right there on the scene, and none of us should pretend to know more than they do.
yeah.
Right?
I mean, people can be mistaken, but these are people giving honest, on the scene, that day, contemporaneous accounts.
And you hear the same account over and over from these people. All right, the first one, I lost my list there for a second, but I do know it.
I have
This is William Rodriguez. He went by Willie. If you read about him, you'll see him in the media as William Rodriguez. He was a janitor in the North Tower, the first building that got hit. He worked there for 20-something years. And let's see, where'd my list go? Do you have that, Michelle?
Yeah, sure. He held one of the live master keys.
Oh, right.
Yeah, to the building, and he saved a whole bunch of lives on 9/11. So this is clip number 11.
All right, here we go.
On 9/11, I was on the basement of the North Tower, and before the plane hit, there was a huge explosion. While I was on B1 at 8.
You heard that. Before the plane hit, there was a huge explosion. Let's hear where it came from.
46, we hear boom, an explosion so loud and so hard that pushed us upwards in the air, upwards, coming from below.
Wow.
Coming from below him, and he was already in the basement. There's 6 or 7 levels to the basement.
Wow.
And I think he was on like the 3rd level, and it came from the level below him.
And I never realized before that he was saying is that it blew him up in the air.
Yeah, it was violent explosion. And many others said the same thing.
I mean, 20 years in the building, I know the difference between something coming from the top and something coming from the bottom. When I went to verbalize that, I thought at that moment that it was a generator, an electrical generator that just blew out on the mechanical room that was located right below us. When I went to verbalize it is when we hear the impact all the way on the top.
So a bomb from below him, and he was already in the basement. And then a few seconds later, he heard the impact at the top. Next is, this is a guy who was working there. I don't have his name, but he was in the basement level at the B4 level, which is, I think, it was one level below where Willie Rodriguez was. This one is number 13.
And this is from a television interview when he was in the hospital a few days after 9/11.
Oh, yeah. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
I was in the B4 level. I was assigned to the B3 level, but I had to do something in the B4 sheet metal shop. So I went in the sheet metal shop, do what I had to do, and on my way, I heard a bomb. So I says, probably the transformer again blew up. So I stepped back, finished what I had to.
Okay, it sounds like he said, I heard a bomb. I think what he's saying is, I heard a boom, but he has an accent. He's not pretending that there
thought
was
he said a bomb.
But then no, he did, but he really meant boom, I'm pretty sure. Because then he says, I thought it was a generator.
transformer, yeah.
Something. Yeah.
Finish, and I started towards the door again, and there come a big blast with a big ball of fire.
Wow.
So that basically goes right along with what William Rodriguez said. The same thing. Before there was anything hitting the tower above, there was a giant explosion and fireball down below.
Below, yeah.
Right. The next is, this is another worker at the World Trade Center. I don't have his name, and it's an interview he gave to someone I believe was a citizen journalist.
Okay.
And you're basically going to hear the same account.
Another explosion in the lowest level.
We're talking about the day's work, what needed to be done. We heard a massive explosion that was in the World Trade Center at about 8:46 a.m. in the morning. The explosion came from, I believe, at first we believed that it came from the mechanical room. And then we heard a series of other explosions that sounded up on the above.
It got cut off there, but he said the same thing. We heard a big explosion below and then a series of explosions above. All right, next is, these are witnesses who heard bombs in the lobby.
Yeah.
These are 2 separate witnesses you're going to hear in 2 separate television interviews, but they're blended into one clip.
And the first guy's going to say that the lobby of the North Tower was blown up by a bomb. Then the first plane hit later. And the second guy, loud explosion underground, same thing.
All right, that's number, which one is that?
Sorry, that's 15.
The ladies that are with me were in the World Trade Center in the first building and escaped through the lobby where they report they believe there was a bomb in the lobby. And even the turnstile was burnt and was sticking up, and they just told us to run. And as we were coming out, we passed the lobby. There was no lobby. So I believe the bomb hit the lobby first, and a couple of seconds in the first plane hit. They were having coffee in the World Trade Center when the first plane struck. And all of a sudden, it sounded like, I don't know where the subway is, but it sounded like a subway collision, a bomb. And it was just pounding, boom, boom, boom. And I really thought the subway had exploded.
So thought the subway had exploded. Now, okay, real quick, we don't have much time.
No.
But I want to get to George Stephanopoulos because he was riding the subway at that time.
Yep.
And he said this live on ABC on 9/11.
At the time, I was actually in the subway heading towards the World Trade Center right around Franklin Street. And after the first explosion, the subway station started to fill with smoke. The subway cars started to fill with smoke, and the subways actually stopped.
That doesn't happen from just a plane hitting a tower many, many stories up.
No.
Now I want to hurry to this one. This is firefighters talking about explosions in the tower.
What happened? There was an explosion. It was in the lobby, and the third explosion, the whole lobby collapsed on us.
What was it like? What was it like?
Horrible, horrible. The whole building just collapsed on us inside the lobby.
Was that a secondary explosion?
Yes, it was.
What you tell me is that there was a plane or whatever hit the building, then a secondary explosion.
There was like 3 explosions after that.
People don't understand. There may be more. Any one of these buildings can blow up. This ain't done yet.
They're convinced there's bombs all over the place
Yeah.
because of what they saw and felt and heard at the time in real time. Totally separate and apart. They said to themselves, totally separate and apart from any plane hitting.
Yeah. You're listening to Baldy and the Blonde. We are going over eyewitness accounts recorded on 9/11 and shortly thereafter. We'll be back with much more after the break. Welcome back to Baldy and the Blonde. I'm Michelle Godin here with Tom Coates, and we are revisiting 9/11 eyewitness accounts taken through reporters, citizen journalists, etc., on 9/11 a few days later, and I have to say it's really compelling to listen to them with the years that have passed. And what we know is we don't know nothing. So we are going to pick up here with some more firefighters on 9/11 talking about molten steel running. Well, I'll let them.
Yeah, we have it in their own words.
Yeah,
Here we go.
let them say it.
You'd get down below and you'd see molten steel running down the channel rails, like you're in a foundry. Like lava.
Okay. Molten steel like you're in a foundry, running down the channel rails, and they describe it like volcano, lava from a volcano. How does that happen from just a plane hitting many stories above?
And you know, this, I don't know if we have a clip that covers this, but the buildings were built to withstand a direct hit from a Boeing 707.
About 4.
No, we don't have any clip like that. This is
But it's just
specifically
true, yes. Just
eyewitness
eyewitnesses.
accounts. That's what we're doing
Just
today.
eyewitnesses.
We could follow up with
other stuff.
other sort of things.
All right. So
next
Rudy,
one, oh yeah, right. The next one is Rudy Giuliani. Listen to this.
Yep.
This is shocking. He's going to be talking about extremely hot fires underground.
About 4 or 5 o'clock in the afternoon, hundreds of construction workers came down there, maybe thousands, and volunteered. And the uplift of that was just tremendous. And I knew how dangerous it was. There were fires below the ground of 2,000 degrees Fahrenheit and more.
well,
How does that happen?
Yes.
And that's Rudy Giuliani.
Yes.
How does he explain that?
I mean,
well, he doesn't have to because nobody presses him on it.
There's architects and engineers for 9/11 Truth. Definitely a site worth checking.
Well, and there's firefighters for 9/11 Truth too.
I didn't know that.
Oh yeah, they would speak to this sort of thing.
Yeah, for sure.
But these are people again who were there on the spot. So I know a lot of our listeners might be skeptical. I would be too. But these are eyewitnesses.
Yeah.
With nothing to lie
That's
about.
it. We're not arguing any position. We're just playing.
That's right.
We just thought it would be really cool to just let you hear what the eyewitnesses said.
Okay, so that's it. That's all we have for the towers. Now let's move
That's
on
it.
to the Pentagon. This first clip is a guy named Michael Kelly. He was a witness. He was just a guy commuting to work, and he happened to be right there at the Pentagon when whatever happened.
I was in the traffic on the 14th Street Bridge, right at the Pentagon, tied up going into town, and I heard this plane come over my head. It was really slow.
What size plane?
It sounded like a small plane. But
It sounded like a small plane. Isn't that interesting? All right, let's go.
Right over his head.
It was very, very low, and the next thing I know, there was this tremendous explosion as it hit the Pentagon.
You known about the World Trade Center?
Oh, yeah, I was listening to WTOP radio the whole time. Then this thing came right over my head.
I wanted to get that last part in. It went right over his head, and it sounded like a small plane.
Yeah.
Now, if it was a commercial jet, one, it wouldn't sound like a small plane, and also he would have been blown off the road.
Well, that's true.
Right?
Yeah, right over his head for sure.
All right, what we got next is...
All right, next we have...
this is a beautiful one.
Yeah, this is great. The CNN reporter Jamie McIntyre. The morning of 9/11 at the site where the Pentagon was hit.
He was there very soon after the Pentagon was
this is
hit.
crazy.
Okay.
And it's from his close-up inspection. Listen to what he says he saw at the Pentagon.
From my close-up inspection, there's no evidence of a plane having crashed anywhere near the Pentagon. The only site is the actual site of the building that's crashed in, and as I said, the only pieces left that you can see are small enough that you could pick up in your hand. There are no large tail sections, wing sections, fuselage, nothing like that anywhere around, which would indicate that the entire plane crashed into the side of the Pentagon and then caused the side to collapse. Now, even though if you look at the pictures of the Pentagon, you see that the floors have all collapsed, that didn't happen immediately. It wasn't until almost about 45 minutes later that the structure was weakened enough that all of the floors collapsed.
Okay, that last point is very important because most images, when you look online, if you Google the Pentagon, and I encourage you to do that, look at the plane crash, the alleged plane crash at Shanksville, the Pentagon. Check that out for yourself. But what he just said is when the floor collapsed, it looks like a much bigger hole. 45 minutes after.
Later,
impact.
yes.
If you look at the ones that were like right after impact,
yeah,
it's a small hole, maybe 8 to 10 feet across,
yeah.
A single hole.
It doesn't have wing marks.
And where's the engines? Engines would just barrel right through.
Yes.
There was nothing like that. It's not there. And the lawn was pristine.
There's no, like he said, there's little pieces of stuff that you can pick up with your hands. None of it makes any sense.
Okay, so the next one is a young lady named April Gallup. This is actually an interview on April 9th, 2011 with Baldy and The Blonde.
What?
Yeah. We had April Gallup on. She's going to...
What, 2011?
April 9th, 2011.
Look at us, man. 14 years ago, we were the bomb shidiggity.
This was her first day back at the Pentagon after maternity leave. She had her baby son with her at the time. Right. Let's see what she has to say.
I don't remember seeing anything at all that remotely looked like a plane.
I assume by this point you were aware what was going on in New York, right?
No, we had no warning. There was nothing.
Really? That's shocking right there.
Yeah, that is.
That's like a scoop.
I mean,
nobody's talking about it. At the Pentagon itself, one of the most secure buildings in the world, they didn't know.
And right, you would think they'd be on high alert, evacuate the building, shut down nothing.
I just thought it was a regular day. There was nothing, no alarms going off, no alert, nothing.
So we're at around 9-30 in the morning, and you as an individual hadn't heard what had happened in New York?
No, I hadn't.
So we're talking about the world's most secure building where there's probably some of the greatest communication capabilities in the world, and at a military installation, and they didn't tell anybody.
No alarms, no announcements, nothing.
Nothing.
Right? Nothing.
And she must not have had a radio on. Again, she had her infant son in the car with her for the first time going back to work, so she must not have heard it on the radio.
But she was in the building, right?
But then she here's what she told us in that interview. Yeah. She got to work, and the moment she turned on her computer is when there was that massive, she didn't say an explosion, it was like an impact.
Yeah.
She said, instantaneously, as soon as I pushed that button, she goes, it was as if I triggered it. That's how
that's right.
instantaneous
I
it was.
Remember that.
She had just got there, but what had happened in New York it happened long ago. Well, 45 minutes ago or
it was.
Long enough
I
to
remember
know.
it was all over the news within 1 minute. Come on. So she should have known, and it just goes to show you the
you know what? There's another clip by April Gallup
right,
from that same interview. That's 24. Here we go.
There was an explosion. You rescued as many people as you could, or helped as many people as you could get out, including your infant son. And you exited through the impact hole out onto the lawn. But in between, there's some important information, and that is what you saw on your way out inside the Pentagon regarding a plane. What did you see?
I didn't see anything. I saw mostly debris, and we were left here on the lawn for a while. And so while I was there, I was there long enough to kind of look around until we got triaged to the hospital, and I still never saw anything on the lawn that resembled a plane.
Good Lord. And when you said you walked through debris, did you see any debris that looked like pieces of a plane, or was it debris from the Pentagon building itself?
It was the building. It was computer pieces, keyboards, like office stuff.
Okay, so she was so close to impact, like a few feet away, that she walked out that hole.
Yes.
That's how close she was. She saw nothing that even closely resembled a plane at all. Jamie McIntyre said, from my close-up inspection, there's no sign of a plane crashing anywhere near the Pentagon.
Yes.
You had two people who were right there and said, not only like, I didn't really see much. It's like, no, I didn't see anything resembling a plane crash.
Well, coming up next, we're going to look at what the witnesses said in Shanksville Pennsylvania, and we will continue with our presentation of eyewitness accounts regarding 9/11. That is the sole focus of today's show, and I think the really amazing points that are being revealed. And we'll be back after the break. You can catch this show on baldyandtheblonde.com, and all of our shows are there, commercial free.
This is your lucky moment because Baldy and the Blonde are back.
Yes.
We are doing a show listening to eyewitness accounts on the morning or shortly after the day of 9/11, people who are right there on the spot at the moment. And I would encourage you to go online, look for yourself, and see the crash at the Pentagon or whatever happened to the Pentagon. You'll see it's a small hole. Before the roof collapsed 45 minutes later.
Yeah.
Small hole. Same thing with Shanksville. I defy anyone. You go look
at
images.
that hole in the ground.
There is no plane.
There's no
plane. And we're going to hear people who were there on the spot, reporters and people who lived in the area who were there on the spot.
And for those of you that weren't here from the beginning of the show, we are not offering any theories as to what actually happened.
No, we're just playing what they said.
This is just what witnesses said.
All right, so the next one is, this is Susan McElwain. She's a local resident and eyewitness. And here's another one. Whatever crashed or hit that field in Shanksville went right over her head, so close. She was in her van. She ducked. It went it was right in her windshield. Right in her windshield. That is 31. Oh.
Yeah, and
okay, here we go.
When I got up here almost to the stop sign, this small white plane, at the time, that's what I thought it was, went over top of me. It was so smooth, and it just glided right over me, just like that. And then I ducked, and when I looked up again, then it was the spoiler, which is what I call it, and it was tipped like this, so I could really see the spoiler. And then it just banked to the right and went over and went down behind those trees. We got to watching it on TV, and they kept saying that it was a large plane, like a 757, and I was like, no. What I saw was no jet. That would have blown me off the road if it went over me, that close. I said, that wasn't it. So, like I said, about 11:30 that night, the FBI came, wanted to talk to me. They kept asking me how big the plane was. I said the plane, it was small, wasn't much bigger than my van that I saw, and that it went over top of
Did you hear that? Not much bigger than my van.
Not much bigger than her van.
Right.
me. And he says, you don't know what a 757 looks like. And I said, don't be condescending to me.
Wow.
If you don't want to believe me, that's fine. But what I saw, I thought I should report. And you ought to know there was something else in the air at the same time this was going on. And you want to make sure maybe it was ours and not somebody else's. And then that's when he did seem to get a little nicer. Told me that it was a white Learjet. Someone was taking pictures. I said, before the crash.
That's awesome.
And he said, well, we got to go.
And then we got to go.
We got to go.
Yeah, so even he said, according to the FBI, oh, yeah, well, there's a small Learjet in the air. He had to make something up on the fly.
Taking pictures.
Yeah, so he knew it was a nonsense story or he wouldn't have made up that ridiculous lie.
We got to go.
So, okay, so the next one, so that was someone who lived in the area who gave her account of what she saw before the crash. It was a small and silent. She says later in the interview that it was quiet, it was silent, and it was perfectly molded. There was no rivets or anything. She saw it that close.
Is there more to that clip? Where she talks about No? Okay.
No.
These are just some notes that we have?
Yeah, that was early. Okay, so earlier, sorry about that. Earlier in the interview, she says, I'm going to quote her. She says, it was pure white. There was not any markings on it. There were no rivets. It was so molded, it looked like it was all of one piece. It was so perfectly white, not a mark on it. My thought at the time was that this looks like it's brand new, never been used.
Wow.
Not a commercial jet, obviously.
Right.
Okay, the next clip is a photographer with the Pittsburgh Fox affiliate. His name is Chris Kanicki. And this is an interview he did on Fox News on the scene, on the morning of or afternoon of 9/11.
Again, we're in Shanksville.
This is the field in Shanksville. And he's up close. He's right there.
I want to get quickly to Chris Kanicki. He's a photographer with the Pittsburgh affiliate of Fox affiliate. He was back there just a couple of minutes ago, and Chris, I've seen the pictures. It looks like there's nothing there except for a hole in the ground.
Basically, that's right. The only thing you could see from where we were was a big gouge in the earth and some broken trees. You could see some people walking around in the area, but from where we could see, there wasn't much left.
Any large pieces of debris at all?
No, there was nothing that you could distinguish that a plane had crashed there.
I'm going to continue, but exactly like the Pentagon. They said the same thing. Nothing that looked like a plane crash at all, and only small pieces.
And here we have, reporters that are used to observing and reporting.
Right. All right, let's continue the clip. You're right.
Go ahead.
Smoke, fire?
Nothing. It was absolutely quiet. It was actually very quiet. Nothing going on down there. No smoke, no fire. Just a couple of people walking around. They look like part of the NTSB crew walking around looking at the pieces.
How big would you say that hole was?
From my estimates, I would guess it was probably about 20 to 15 feet.
I mean,
long and probably about 10 feet long or 10 feet wide.
What could you see on the ground, if anything, other than dirt and ash? And
you couldn't see anything. You could just see dirt, ash, and people walking around.
There's nothing there. I've looked at the photos. That's all there is. There's a gouge in the earth, and some soil turned up, and that's about it. If they didn't tell you that a plane had crashed there, you would never guess in a million years that a plane had crashed there. America believes it because that's what they told us. There is no sign of it. These close-up eyewitnesses said the exact same thing at the Pentagon and Shanksville. They were right there, said, I didn't see any sign of a plane.
Exactly. Even a CNN reporter, for goodness sakes.
Right, and this guy was a reporter.
And this guy's a Fox guy.
Okay, and the next one is also a reporter. He's an NBC reporter. I don't have his name. He's on the scene in Shanksville. Let's see what he has to say.
Sort of the most horrifying aspect of this particular crash scene is how little debris is visible. There is a large crater in the ground. That's really all you see is a large crater in the ground and just tiny, tiny bits of debris.
Same thing. Hole in the ground, little tiny debris. Let's go.
There's been at least one report that the investigators out there, and there are hundreds of them, as I said tonight, have found nothing larger than a phone book.
Nothing larger than a phone book. Where's the engines?
I mean, come on. This is insane.
Engines don't disappear.
I mean, and look, this is a different America now. We know that they lie to us all the time about everything. Wear a mask, don't wear a mask. 6 feet, no reason.
Yeah, right.
Whatever. Okay.
All right, so the next one is, this is a volunteer fireman in Shanksville. His name is Rick King. He did this interview on CNN talking about what he saw in that field in Shanksville, or did not see in this case.
Some small fires in the woods, just small brush fires. The ground smoking, debris everywhere, pieces of metal, paper, insulation, wiring. And I just looked around and no people, and I'm thinking, where are the people?
No people. Wiring, insulation. Where's the people? Where's the engines? Where's the seats? Where's anything? Anything resembling a plane? And the answer is, it ain't there.
No.
According to many, and it's not like I clipped all the witnesses. Tiny percentage of witnesses.
No, just a little bit.
They all say the same thing.
I really,
look at the photos yourself.
Go look online, folks. Go look.
You won't find any plane in Shanksville.
No, and when you're looking at the Pentagon, remember to look at the original photos before the building collapsed.
And they're hard to find. You got to look
they really
a lot.
Because they don't want you to see them.
Yeah, you're right. So, Kobe, how much time we got?
Almost 2 minutes.
All right.
Okay, good. So
next, World Trade Center.
Let's get into Building 7.
Yeah, let's go to Building 7.
Just a little backstory on that. There might be some listeners who aren't familiar with Building 7. It was the third building that collapsed that day, despite not having been hit by a plane or anything.
Nothing.
And the reason for the collapse has never been satisfactorily explained. They say it was due to fire. However, before 9/11 and after 9/11, no steel frame building in the history of the world has ever collapsed on account of fire. But on that day, apparently,
three of them
did. The laws of physics changed for that day.
Just that day.
And it's never happened before or after. Now, it's interesting.
And produced lava, molten lava.
Oh, yeah, underground.
Rivers of lava.
Yeah. Now, we're going to play the clips after the break. I just wanted to give this intro about Building 7 before the break. And that is, so the National Institute for Science and Technology, NIST, they, for years, literally years, denied that Building 7 fell at free fall speed. They said that would be impossible. It can't fall at free fall speed. The only way something can fall at free fall speed is if all support systems fail at the exact same time. Right. And they said that's impossible here. It couldn't have. And they did that for years. And then they put out a few interim reports and they all said the same thing, that it couldn't have been free fall speed. And finally, when they did their very last report, they admitted that Building 7 fell at free fall speed. That's NIST said it fell at free fall speed. And the only way that can happen is if all support systems fails at the exact same time. And the only way that happens is controlled demolition. They didn't go and say that, but that's the inference.
No, that is
but
the
they
inference.
finally admitted what we all knew.
Yeah.
That it fell at free fall speed.
You know, and you could see, you know, when you look at the collapse of the buildings, lots of witnesses were saying, "Oh, wow, the building just blew up."
Yes. Oh, and go. Speaking of going online, go to YouTube. Just put in "collapse of Building 7." You're going to be shocked.
All right, we'll be right back after the break. Welcome back to Baldy and the Blonde. We are fast-paced today, taking eyewitness accounts and playing them for you regarding 9/11. Now we are focused on Building 7. Highly recommend you go look up World Trade Center Building 7. Whatever happened to Building 7? Because probably many of you didn't even know that there was a third building that collapsed in its footprint without being hit by a plane.
And I forgot to mention last segment, and I don't have time now, but it was a very rock solid 47-story building that housed like the SEC, the FBI, the CIA, everybody who's anybody in the high up in the feds had an office there. This was a very well-built building, secure building, and it just happened to fall down.
A lot of big, important records disappeared that day, including the military records. And the day before the collapse of Building 7, Rumsfeld had announced trillions of dollars were missing from the Department of Defense, but all of that
That's another story.
Went away. Another story. Right now we're just doing eyewitnesses. Here we go.
Okay, this next two clips are going to be a guy named Barry Jennings. On 9/11, he was deputy director of the Emergency Services Department of the City of New York, and part of his job, where he reported, was in Building 7, I think 22nd, 23rd floor, in what they called the emergency bunker. So here's Barry Jennings talking about what he saw that day.
Upon arriving into the OEM EOC,
that's Office of Emergency Management, and then OEC is whatever bunker he's going to.
Noticed that everybody was gone. I saw coffee that was on a desk. Still, the smoke was still coming off the coffee. I saw half-eaten sandwiches, and only me, Mr. Hess, was up there.
When he says Mr. Hess, that's a guy named Michael Hess we'll hear from later. So there's only two people there that day in that office.
After I called several individuals, one individual told me that to leave and leave right away. Mr. Hess came running back in and said, "We're the only ones up here, we got to get out of here." He found the stairwell. So we subsequently went to the stairwell and we're going down the stairs. When we reached the 6th floor, the landing that we were standing on gave way. There was an explosion and the landing gave way. And I was left there hanging. I had to climb back up, and now I had to walk back up to the 8th floor. After getting to the 8th floor, everything was dark. It was dark, and it was very, very hot. Very hot.
Explosion? Now they're saying the official word from NIST, no explosions, just fire. But now the next clip of similar length, it's still going to be Barry Jennings, same guy.
When they finally got to us, and they took us down to what they called the lobby, because I asked them, I said, when we got down there, I said, "Where are we?" He said, "This was the lobby." And I said, "You got to be kidding me." It was total ruins. Total ruins. Now keep in mind, when I came in there, the lobby had nice escalators. It was a huge lobby. And for me to see what I saw, it was unbelievable. And the firefighter that took us down kept saying, "Do not look down." And I kept saying, "Why?" He said, "Do not look down." And we were stepping over people. And you can feel when you're stepping over people.
The official word is nobody died in Building 7 that day. Yeah. He's stepping over dead people.
They took us out through a hole that I don't know who made this hole in this wall. That's how they got us out. They took us out through a hole, through the wall, to safety. I know what I heard. I heard explosions. When I got to that lobby, the lobby was totally destroyed. It looked like King Kong had came through it and stepped on it.
Wow.
And it was so destroyed, I didn't know where I was.
It was completely destroyed. That's in the morning, way before it collapsed. It didn't collapse till 5:20 in the evening.
This is crazy. What
Bombs
time of
were
day
going
is
off.
this?
Oh, I don't know. It would have been a little
in
after
the
10,
morning,
I think,
yeah.
something like that. Okay, now we're going to listen to Michael Hess, who was the other individual who was with Barry Jennings in Building 7 that morning.
I'm standing here right now just off Broadway by City Hall with Michael Hess, who is the city's corporation counsel. Mr. Hess, you were trapped in...
This is the morning of 9/11.
Yes.
Barry Hess's Barry Jennings was an interview he gave later, but this is the day of.
I believe 7 World Trade Center. Go ahead, sir.
Yes, I was. I was up in the Emergency Management Center on the 23rd floor, and when all the power went out in the building, another gentleman and I walked down to the 8th floor where there was an explosion, and we've been trapped on the 8th floor with smoke, thick smoke all around us for about an hour and a half.
Okay, now here's the epilogue. This is going to shock you. So we heard from Barry Jennings. We heard from Michael Hess. They both said the same thing, explosions in that building. Now, on August 19th, 2008, a little over a year after Barry Jennings gave that interview, he died suddenly, and his family reportedly disappeared. 2 days later is when NIST released for public comments a draft summary of the report on Building 7, 2 days after he died. Well, he couldn't give public comments because he was dead.
That's right.
And his family was gone. And then get this, the people who made the movie Loose Change that he gave that interview for, they hired a private investigator to find out what had happened with Barry Jennings. And on March 11th, 2009, the investigator emailed one of the producers with this following message, quote, "Due to some of the information I have uncovered, I have determined that this is a job for the police. I have refunded your credit card. Please do not contact me again concerning this individual." Oof. That's how it ended for Barry Jennings. Now let's hear how it ended for Michael Hess, the other guy. Soon after 9/11, Michael Hess recanted his version of events and said he did not hear any explosions. He went on to a very lucrative position as senior managing director and partner at Giuliani Partners, LLC, the security and consulting firm founded by Rudy Giuliani in 2002.
Wow.
One sticks to his story and is dead, and one changes his story and got a fabulous, wealthy position with Rudy Giuliani.
Jeez.
That's how that ended for Michael Hess. All right.
Next up, Kevin McFadden. He's a former Air Force Special Operations for Search and Rescue expert. He went to Ground Zero to search for survivors as a volunteer with the Red Cross. This is an excerpt from an interview with the British filmmaker Dean Puckett for a 2008 film called The Elephant in the Room.
Okay, here we go. That's 44.
Clip 44.
The Red Cross rep says, well, you got to stay behind this line because they're thinking about bringing the building down. And he goes over and he asked one of the firefighters what was going on. He came back over with his hand over the radio, and it sounded like a countdown. And at the last few seconds, he took his hand off, and you heard 3, 2, 1, and he was just saying, just run for your life, just run for your life. And then it was like another 2, 3 seconds, you heard explosions. Like, boom! There's like a distinct sound. It's not like when the compression, like boom, 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 like floors that were dropping and collapsing. This was boom, and like you felt a rumble in the ground.
Okay, unfortunately, we got to hurry. I want to get through these other two because they're very
I just want to say real quick
Go
that
ahead.
he was standing near Building 7 when that interview was done. He was referring to that. Go ahead.
Yes. Okay. The next one, Larry Silverstein, who had just signed a lease in July, right before 9/11, a few weeks before 9/11. He signed a lease. He ended up getting $4.5 billion in insurance because of this. Let's hear what he had to say about Building 7. This is an interview on PBS.
I remember getting a call from the fire department commander telling me that they were not sure they were going to be able to contain the fire. And I said, we've had such terrible loss of life. Maybe the smartest thing to do is pull it. And they made that decision to pull, and then we watched the building collapse.
So that sounds like a controlled demolition, and you
Sure
can't do a
does.
controlled demolition unless you wire it way in advance.
Yeah,
Now, we don't have time for the last clip,
No.
but I'm going to read a quote by John Kerry. He said, quote, "I think they made the decision," meaning to pull the building, "based on the danger that it had of destroying other things, and that they did it in a controlled fashion." That's John Kerry. I wish I could play it. We don't have time.
Yeah, we don't have time, but maybe we can put it up on Facebook. Y'all can maybe I don't know if I can, but anyway, I'll try. So anyway, the bottom line is y'all want to definitely go listen to this show again and follow up by looking at pictures of World Trade Center, because we didn't even get to cover this, but when Trade Center 7 came down, there's reporters talking about Trade Center 7 coming down, but it's still in the background.
Yeah, the BBC reporters, 20 minutes before it collapsed, said, well, another building collapsed.
Right, like,
and you can see it in the background.
You
It's
see
right
it behind
there.
them. Anyway, this is Baldy and the Blonde.